Well, I look at that question maybe a little differently than some other people. I think the obvious answer is the safety and sanitation. But what I would suggest for companies is to look at and try and imagine what is going to be a best case scenario and a worst case scenario over the next 6 months or 2 years. And look for common things that would be helpful no matter what occurs. So yes, part of that will be safety issues that need to be done. But I think that there's also other opportunities. Technology is going to be more important, regardless of whether we come out of this quickly or if it takes a long time. Obviously the safety, so certifications, maybe HACCP certifications or additional trainings. Language will be important, as we are now may not have as much international travel. We'll still want to communicate, and there will need to be people that can communicate with other countries. And because we may be meeting online, there's a higher opportunity to meet with more companies and cultures. So what I would say is that if I were in charge of a company, or if I was focusing on my personal development, I would look for certain things that no matter what happens will be valuable. And I think what we can do is focus on that, because it may come back very quickly, and things may get back to normal very quickly, or it may be a very, very long time. And we'll be able to put in different strategies depending on each one. But my suggestion is look for what will be helpful for you over the next 2 years. And maybe that's spending money on upgrades for more robotics or less contacts, or investing in employee trainings on sanitation, or yourself. So my suggestion or my thoughts on this is to not look at the individual things that are happening every day and react to them, but take a longer view on it. Think of best case scenario and worst case scenario, and look at what does that mean for your job and what does that mean for your operation. And in all those scenarios, what might be a common thread that would help you be successful, and focus on that. So computer skills, Microsoft Excel, Word, Zoom. Everyone should be an expert on Zoom right now. If you're not, I'm not sure why. So these things that we're using that we likely will continue, take the time, get the expertise in it, and that would be my suggestion. The biggest thing I've been thinking about this is what would stop me from traveling or going somewhere. And to be honest, for me, I will probably start traveling very quickly. I am not scared. I am not concerned at all. And maybe that's just me. But there are certain things that I'm not really excited about doing. For example, very large sporting events, or maybe large concerts. But individual airlines and restaurants and hotels, those types of things don't really bother me as much. I know they may bother other people, but what I would do is try and figure out what are the specific fears that a traveler may have coming to your operation. So is it that somebody's handling their food? Is it that someone's dropping off their food? Is it that someone's cleaning their rooms? But find out specifically what are people afraid of, and what would stop them from coming to your restaurant or your airline or whatever it is, and then work to fix that specific fear. Because I think a lot of people too aren't even really sure what they're scared of. And they may not even know why they don't want to fly, or why they might not want to go into a restaurant or stay at a hotel. So finding out those things and then putting in a solution for that, I think that sometimes people can get ahead of themselves and start creating solutions before they've defined that specific problem and exactly what they're trying to accomplish. So that would be my suggestion, is industry by industry, survey your people, survey travelers, and find out what are they scared of, and then do something to fix that. Because people aren't traveling not because they don't want to, but either they're not allowed to or they're a little frightened right now. Once the government lets people, then that is taken care of. The last thing to do is to make people feel safe, and we want to identify those specific things that would make someone feel unsafe. That's a good question. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for automation, and that's what we're going to see right now. And again, when you look at things in the future, I was always of the opinion that we would have, eventually there would be more automation within the industry, be it a robot vacuum or self-check-in on your phone, whatever has been occurring. I always thought that eventually we'd get to there. I think what's going to happen now is it's going to just happen more quickly. And as things become cost-effective, that's going to help as well. So anything that's a repetitive task, that can be automated. So I would look at things like that and understand, though, that this has always been part of the industry. In a hotel, for example, the night auditor used to have to be a very accomplished financial person doing all sorts of math calculations. And then it got taken over by the PMS system, where a touch of a button could handle all of these things. So it's always been the case that things are going to get automated. I just think right now it's going to be much more rapid, because this automation can also go hand in hand with sanitation. And so anywhere where there's a contact, I think they'll probably look to eliminate that. And so you look at handing someone a key, for example. Well, maybe you don't want to do that. And handing someone a credit card, maybe you don't want to do that. So there will be technologies that come up that can eliminate these little contact points. And I think that that'll be the first step, is that focus on sanitation. But then I also think that there's going to be a practical solution as well, where it's going to be cheaper overall to implement some kind of technology or robots versus a human. Now, that being said, I don't think it's going to be 100% takeover. So I envision humans and robots working together. There's studies that show that humans working in collaboration with robots are much more effective than humans on their own or robots on their own. And so there's always going to want to be that human touch, but maybe instead of having 10 waiters and waitresses, you have 2 waiters and waitresses and 4 robots that help run food, or people are taking orders on a tablet or something like that. So I think that's what we're going to see, is it's going to start with the push to limit contact and increase sanitation. And then it's going to continue to spill over as it gets, more people get used to it, but also as it gets more cost friendly. I mean, that's a tough question, a philosophical question, really, for me. I look at it as you need to make sure you have skills that cannot be taken by a robot. And I think that's just the truth to it. So if you're in a position currently that could be done by a robot, then you really want to try and work as hard as you can to develop some additional skills. And within a hotel, specifically, there's typically lots of opportunity for cross-training into different departments or learning modules. There's all sorts of free resources, there's certifications, but I would kind of put it back on the employee and say, well, your skills that you possess could be replaced by a robot fairly easily. What other skills can we either help you get, or better yet, what skills would you like to go learn on your own and become a better worker? Because it will be a reality. I have a robot vacuum at my house. So I have one of those little, circular vacuums, and it's great because while I'm cleaning, it's cleaning the floor. And that skill of cleaning the floor is something I had to learn, but it's not a super special skill, and it could get taken by a robot. And there's other things in my house that I would love to be done by a robot. If they could make my bed. They're not exactly robots, but think of washing machines. All of these things are going to happen inevitably. And what I would say is that I would put it back on the individual. And again, look at what's happening in the future. If you're someone who vacuums a rug, for example, your job will not be there forever. It might be here for another 3 years. It might be here for another 10 years, but it won't be forever, because some of these repetitive tasks can be handled through automation or robots. And that's just a fact that happens. There used to not be any dishwashers. There used to not be any washing machines. All of these things are going to continue to be created. So my biggest thing, and what I'd hope that people would look at, is try and get a skill that you can utilize, and that's going to be needed in the future. And we're always going to need nice, friendly, service-oriented people. That is something that a computer will not, I don't think, be able to completely take out. Management skills will always be important. Thinking skills, problem-solving skills. And what's great about a lot of that is you can go get those skills. So I would say right now, if you are concerned about unemployment numbers, if you're concerned about your job, then go and look to what other opportunities you might be able to have, because there probably is not going to be a way to stop automating some of these jobs. And this is something that has always happened. Change will always happen. It just is. I would say that, things have been really good for a really long time. So we need to keep that in mind as well. And they talk about, looking in the future, when are we going to get back to these levels? I wouldn't look at it necessarily like that, because these are all-time high levels. But what I would say is that everyone should take a step back right now and accept reality and try and figure out what they can do about it. So if you have a large hotel or a resort, you're likely not going to be able to get large groups in, because people don't want to travel in groups, but maybe you can get many individuals, which would still result in the same amount of people, but you're going to have to shift those strategies a little bit. And I think it's really important for people now to recognize that this is when true professionals, true leaders, and true thought leaders are really going to excel. Not everyone is going to be successful, but if you have the mentality that your hotel, your resort, your airline is going to be fine, and you're going to do every single thing that you can to fix it and to make it successful, you will be. So I think part of it, the first step is the mentality, that you have to accept that this is what's going on, and I am as good as anyone else, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to creatively come up with ideas. Some of the ideas I've thought of, and again, I don't work, but if I owned a hotel, I would offer naming rights for any of the rooms. So you want to put your name on this room, it's no longer 307, now it's the Tucker Suite. That costs you $50. If I had a restaurant, I'd let people rename my entrees. It's no longer the tacos, they're Tucker's Tacos. So there's all sorts of ways where you can generate money that might be a little bit different from what you've been doing in the past, but that's something that I haven't seen yet. And it's kind of disappointing as a former marketer that everyone is just kind of sitting and waiting for things to get back to normal instead of aggressively thinking about ways where they can generate money. So for the large organizations, I would have them be looking at bringing individual travel. There's tons of people who are supposed to get married who didn't get to get married. They probably don't have honeymoons anymore. A honeymoon package for a canceled wedding. I mean, there's so many things that you could look at. Now, it's going to be harder with the international travel. So maybe you're going to have to sell future stays. I have seen some of that where hotels are offering for $200 today, you can have $300 worth of credit in the future. I don't understand why more aren't doing that. Lots of people have excess money right now. Some have very little money, but some people have excess money because they've had to be staying at home. They've been saving. So there's people with money. The future selling stuff, I would expect to see more. I think the naming rights, the branding, all of those things could be great options as well. For the small operations, they should really lean into what they do and what they provide. Not everyone wants to go to a big resort or a big restaurant or a chain restaurant. There are many, many people that are looking to go for some of these smaller operations. So maybe find 15 similar operations in 15 different countries, go to their Facebook pages, see all the people that have liked their page, and try and contact each one of those people individually. There's always opportunities. It just comes down to how creative are you going to get and how hard are you willing to work. And I think right now that's something that I'm not sure everyone recognizes. I think most people think things are just going to come back if we just kind of hold on long enough. And what I think is that you should be aggressively working right now, planning for the future in order to make sure you're successful. And I'll give you an example in my life. So I'm an instructor, but I realize that things are definitely going to be much more online focused in the future. It just is going to be, right? So I'm working on certifications for online education. I'm working to learn different technologies, and that I think will help in the future because I know that's where I'm going to be. And I would say the same thing to these operators. Where you're going to be in the next 6 months, think of every single thing you can do in order to generate revenue. And I guarantee, for me, I would go pay $100 over at the local brewery if they put my name on one of their beers. Well, and I think that's really important. You know, I wouldn't want to go to Ecuador and just meet a bunch of robots. I think that the greatest part of it would be interacting with the people, especially the different cultures, and really learning about that stuff. So I think part of it too depends on where you are and what you're presenting. You know, for me, going to Ecuador would be about meeting the people, seeing the sites, those types of things. But there might be a different outcome for travel if I was going to Houston, where I just needed a place to stay. So I don't think that those types of one-on-one experiences will go away. But I do think that it depends on where you're at. I've never heard anyone who's gone to Ecuador say anything besides the beautiful people and the beautiful scenery. And that's why they go. And it's not about high-end fixtures or automated processes. If that occurs, it's going to have a negative impact. So, well, there are things that can get automated. It's also important to understand what your specific location offers. And every location offers something as far as geographically, but also every individual restaurant, hotel, whatever it is, you have your niche. And a lot of that has to do with your people as well. And that's where I think that skill is something, though, that can also be looked at. So maybe you don't learn about technology, but maybe you learn about some of the cultural things that go on in other countries, so that when someone comes to Ecuador, they can learn about your culture, but you also know a little bit about theirs, so you know a couple phrases or whatever it is. So I think there's opportunity for everyone to learn and grow right now, and just recognize that things may be a little bit different, and it's up to you to figure out what that is and what can be helpful for you. And you know, a lot of that too is just going to be going out and, when you can, talking to the people and reading things and just getting a sense of where things are going. So I would say for the people that are not maybe technologically advanced, There's things that a computer or a robot or whatever it is will never be able to do. And that has to do with warmth and sincerity and friendliness. And all of those things are something that you can either do or learn to do or pretend to do. So everyone can do them. I would say, look at this as a positive time, okay? Make a list or think about all of the good things that have come out of this, because there are good things that have come out of this. You get to spend more time with your family. You get to sleep in. Whatever it is, you get to cook more food. You can read. There's lots of positives. So don't focus on the negatives, because that makes it really easy. But think about what a wonderful time this is right now. When's the next time you're going to be able to just hang out at your house forever and not have to go into work? So switch your mindset a little bit and start looking for all the positives. And then remember that tourism is going to come back very quickly. The only thing that's going to hold it back is government regulations, I think, because people want to travel. I am dying to travel right now. I want to go somewhere. Everyone I know wants to go somewhere. We want to go out to eat. We want to go get on planes. We want to do all this stuff. So there is going to be a very robust hospitality industry, and it's going to be very soon. Things are starting to get opened back up. This is a great, great career. And I always tell people what makes it so great is that it's the ideal spot for someone if you like people, if you like travel, if you like business, and you like food. And there's a lot of people that fall into that category. I'm one of them. And so to be able to go in somewhere and to positively impact people, to work with people, and to have this kind of sense of hospitality community is such a wonderful thing. And remember that the economy is cyclical and the hospitality industry is cyclical, and they follow each other. There will be ups, there will be downs. This is one moment in time, and things will be awesome again, and then they'll be bad again. And that's just how life works. So don't use this time to make any huge changes as far as thinking that this today is what it's going to be like forever, because it's not. And just embrace what you have right now. Relax, read a book, call a friend, look on the bright side of what's going on, because maybe in 6 months from now, you're going to wish that you could relax at home again.